So this is the 11th episode. Today we are discussing from a full stack perspective what we want to do today. So till now we did quite a few things on gRPC and introduced Redis cache and did a unary streaming, client streaming, server side streaming. We did a lot of streaming errors and logging, exceptional handling, and then we did work on gRPC web and Blazor, and then we saw how we can do service to service communication, and we saw how we can do authentication and authorization. As these are service to service communication, we did only only the kind of authentication where you don't pass the user credentials, but we pass the service credentials. So that's the thing which we did it. And today we are going to see from the full stack perspective. What does full stack perspective means? If you see uh, from the server side, we have server side API and we have gRPC service. We have these two things. How can I communicate with Angular 10 app, Angular 10 UI? How can this UI communicate with REST API? And how can I communicate with this Angular UI with gRPC web? And how can I communicate? I mean, if time permits, we'll see the third combination. If time permits, what we can see is we can see how can I communicate with an web gRPC service which doesn't expose the web portion. That means until and unless we add the web capabilities to the gRPC, it will not allow any browser app to talk to it. So what we can do is, I mean, I don't know how many people will approve this approach, but we can have another approach. Like we have a simple gRPC. So gRPC without web. Okay, that's a condition. gRPC without web. On top of that, we can have REST API client. So this we did it in our second or third episode. We had multiple clients for the gRPC service. So we tried this. So if you expose or add an additional layer, I don't know whether a lot of architects they approve this, but if I add a layer in between this gRPC service and Angular UI, I can very well use this. Okay, so we'll see this quite a few action. We'll go into one by one, step by step. Okay, so let's take time. First, understand what do we have on the table right now, and then slowly we'll add components one by one. So the thing is that we have one set of reusable components. With the same set of reusable components, we are having REST API created, and with the same set of reusable components, we are having the gRPC service being created, and then we add the capability of gRPC web to the gRPC service, and then we are trying with two different Angular 10 UI, the client UI, where I talk to REST. How is that I'm going to talk, and I talk to the gRPC web version. How do I talk? Okay. If time permits, we'll see the third combination. Else, we can do it in our next episode when we are doing the non.NET clients. Okay, to with some combination, maybe the Go language or the Node.js and other things. Okay, let's hit the road now. What do we have on the table? So if you see that we have, I mean, these all the code which we have developed in previous episodes. I thought that we can focus purely from the full stack integration perspective. So I was just focusing on that piece. So it will be repeat if I again go ahead and create this because all we discussed in previous session in length. So we already saw that that's the random number generator, name generator, and address generator. And the next thing we have already seen this core where we have the entities, we have the interfaces, and we have the constants. So we saw this at length, and also we have seen this persistence, which is having couple of tables, and this is the Professor Dal. Okay, so let me open that Azure Data Studio, our favorite guy, and we'll see that. One second, let me. Uh, I mean, all the moving pieces will remain as it is. That means if I come in here, and these are the reusable components, and here is a REST web service, and inside that REST web service we have the Professor's controller. We are having one or two methods only instead of focusing on more number of methods. Now the intention is the integration points. Okay, so we have get all and get by id, only two methods are there, and if you see that everything is reusable, and if you come and check this gRPC web, um, we have seen the same protos, whatever we are using from episode 1, today's 11th episode, but the same protos we are using and the same college service. We are having get all professor, get professor by ID. Those two methods are there because our focus is towards the integration, and add professor is here. And another point to focus on this is we are using the user secrets. That means at nowhere we are going to store any connection string in the app settings or in the source control. So we are not at all going to store anything inside this source control. Okay, so everything is coming from the same user secret ID. If you see that 84C, and this also we have seen at multiple times that all these are coming from here. 84, this is the guy, and let me select it. So where you have this my local database, and this one, even though it's not a big secret, but let's have an habit of right. So so that's the thing. Mm, okay, right. So that's all. We have this. So let me open two command prompts and keep ready, because every time instead of we going and executing one by one, let's execute it from the let's execute it from that command line, so that we'll save some space. Okay. Okay. I'll keep this windows. One we will use it for web API. Okay, one will use it for gRPC service. Okay, now we know what these things are for. Okay, so we have this opened up. That's for the gRPC service. So let me open the third. Okay, this is for this. And next one, let me go all the way till here in another window. Okay, we have both commands open for one for the web API and one for the gRPC service, and we need the Postman guy. I'm opening the Postman also now. And other point also which we have covered in our previous session, but let's quickly touch upon it, is that when you want to change the port number or the default route which it has to reach, we will go. There are multiple ways. one of the ways is we will go and modify it in launch settings. I mean, this is not the only way, but there are other ways where you can go ahead and modify. So what we did is we modified that launch URL to app slash weather forecast, and similarly app slash weather forecast. That's one thing. And the second thing is we have the application URL. Application URL. Now the port on which we can reach is 5002. On port which we can reach is 5002. And if you come and see, the gRPC server is getting executed in the port 5001. Okay, these are the two things. So let's quickly go and do a hello world of validation, and then we can take it forward from there. Okay, before that I want one of the item to be we need one item for the client, the console app. We need one console app so that we can quickly test all those things and we can move further. Okay, so I'll paste it here. Right, cool. So I just go and add an existing project. Okay, good. So we have it, and let me build again. So we'll test this because these all libraries and the code, entire code, we developed it in our previous sessions. So there's nothing new, exactly the same one. Okay, let's start. Uh, do a quick one round of testing and then we'll go into Angular 10. So first we'll test this guy. .NET Run. And I'm opening this .NET Run. So I'm starting both the web API as well as the gRPC, and we see that gRPC it's running on 5001, and the REST API is running on 5002. Okay, cool then. So let's quickly test what do we have. How did we test this gRPC service using the client application? So we want to add new professor. That's what we did it. So I'll just put a place a debugger there, and let's quickly come and select this professors. Let me close this window later, not now. And let me go and do a new query and then run. So we see this. These are some of the records which already existing. 8 records are already there. So what do I do? What are we doing now? Now we are trying to test it. So we can focus this. We can focus on this one, and we can quickly come back to this gRPC, and let me select this as a startup class. I'm changing that as a startup class and just clicking on that. I'm hitting this. Okay, now we have to observe one thing, the channel from which we are coming. Either we are coming from the gRPC service channel or whether we are coming from the gRPC web channel. Okay, that differentiation we will see now. Okay, so if I come if I do an F10, I'm going, this is the client which is calling add professor async. So let me keep this browser somewhere here. You can see this, the last line is content root path. That's the last line. So now I do an F10. So the moment I do an F10, you can quickly come back and see that. So it hit this gRPC, it hit the gRPC service. And if you carefully observe this, it says that, okay, I'm hitting this gRPC service on HTTP2. Okay, and it was able to insert the row successfully. And we can see here the professor ID which it got created, CF7F. Okay, so that's it. So I think pretty much we this is what we want to test it. All the things which we tested previously, but still we would like to test this, and we stopped it there. And once that test is done, the other test what we can do is just to understand the channels, from how many channels we are coming in. So the episode 8, we created a Blazor WASM solution. So let me include that also in this one. So now we are getting the big picture. So big picture is you have one set of reusable components that you are doing Web API, REST Web API. With the same set of reusable components, we are doing the gRPC service. Because here, if you see this, if you expand the solution and focus on this gRPC server as well as this gRPC servers as well as this Web API, there are no business logic or no application core components or no data access layer, no persistent, nothing is there. It's just focus only on one thing. The Web API focuses only on the controllers, and the gRPC service only focuses on how to expose the protos, how to expose this RPC methods using the services. So that's everything. We have created the reusables, and we are using that. Okay, this also we have seen in length in our previous episodes. Okay, so let's spend one quick round of testing. Let's spend few minutes to do one quick round of testing with this Blazor WASM. That also we discussed in episode 8. Okay, so let's quickly go into that. I am minimizing this because this code we have seen 100 lot of times. I mean, I don't want to lie saying hundreds of times, but we have seen lots of times. So let me go quickly and add the Blazor WASM. This one also we have already seen that in our previous episode, 8th episode. Okay, so now what we will do is, well, we'll quickly come back here, and we can see that the app settings is here, and we said that the endpoint is 5001. That's the thing which we have. As similarly, if you are having this the console application, we are definitely having this service URL 5001. Similarly, in Blazor WASM, we have this in our app settings. Okay, and another thing to focus on is this gRPC web handler. Okay, this is the one which makes it possible for us to go and talk to this gRPC web channel. Okay, this is the one which makes the call to the gRPC web channel. And when we are adding this HTTP client, this is the channel which we are going and hitting to the REST endpoint. Okay, whether you are hitting the REST endpoint or whether we are hitting the gRPC web, both has been baked into this startup program. Okay, it has been baked into this guy. Okay, and one more thing which we saw is we saw how can we create this razor pages in Blazor WASM, which is very similar. I don't say exact, or which is very similar from the concept perspective, from the separation of concerns perspective, or a separation of responsibility perspective. You see that someone I can these two different pieces are there. If you club both, it becomes one page. You have the razor and you have the CS file. So similar to ASPX web forms, if you have worked in ASPX web forms, you have a ASPX page and corresponding code behind the .cs. So similarly, we can do that. I mean, you can do the other way also, where you can maintain everything in one razor page, where you have the markup and code both. But the other model, what we did it is we have created the razor pages and kept this razor pages exclusively for the markup. So it was very similar to the that ASPX web forms, where you have where you have this markup, and this CS is very similar to the code behind. I mean, I'm just comparing so that visually you can analyze it. Okay, this is this. Okay, this for the markup and this is for the code behind. And that's it. I think we are pretty much there. Let's quickly check this guy once. How the communication? But the key thing what we have to focus is when we are hitting this channel, because in the previous console application to test that gRPC service, we saw the call, and the call was explicitly mentioning that it made an gRPC call, and it should tell that okay, it has completed the gRPC service call. Okay, nowhere it is mentioning that it is a gRPC web call. It says that gRPC call. Okay, now we will see how the request, if it is coming from the gRPC web channel. So this is all the foundational blocks which we are putting in before we come into that Angular 10 piece. Okay, so I already created the entire application. We are going to quickly go and browse and do. We are working towards the integration point. Okay, we are working towards the integration point. It's nothing to do with we go ahead and building everything. Okay, so if you see the difference when this page has come for the first time, it goes and talks to the hello world of this gRPC that is there here in the gRPC folder. One of the protos is this greet, and it is calling this greet. So that's the first call it made here. We can see this here in the network tab. So let me do empty cache and reload. When I do that empty cache and reload, you can pretty much see that a lot of things are getting downloaded. And apart from that, it made a call to the greeter service. Here you go. You can see that it made the call to the greeter service, and hello.net, it has come from there. So the same thing we are displaying here. And let's focus on this guy. This is the web API, and I just click on this guy, web API. You can see that it made a call to the web API that's going on 5002. Okay, so you can see that it came and hit this 5002, and it got the content, and it should be 9 records. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we have the 9 records. Now let's focus on this guy. Let's focus on this guy. So the last one we saw this message was greeter. We can see that it says that the greeters, and it here if you see the differentiation here, it said that it has finished the request in so and so milliseconds, and the status was 200. What was that? It was application slash gRPC web. If you go and check the previous request when we have added a record, at that time again it is telling that request finished in so and so milliseconds. The status was 200, but the channel, if you observe that the channel was gRPC. That means it's not coming through, even though there is a single server gRPC service. It's a single service, but the channel which you can come is two channels. If you have exposed a gRPC service and that is deployed in one of the cloud provider or in your data center, and that is acting as a service which will cater the needs of other services. It's not that direct UI is hitting it, some other services. That means an integration between one service and another service. In that kind of scenario, we can use this gRPC. Okay, so when it comes from the front end perspective, the browser application, when it is hitting, pretty much they will come through the uh, gRPC web channel. They'll come through the gRPC web channel. So that's what we are seeing today. So the first thing we have seen, that how did the first integration happen? That was when we call the say hello. Now let's call this gRPC. Let's call this professor's gRPC web, and you can see that it invoked that that professor's gRPC call. You can see that here. It's calling that 5001. That means the request would have received to this gRPC guy, where it goes and gets the data. No, that's again the gRPC web call. So that's about the integration points. We have touched a lot of integration points. Now let's come back and talk something from the from this theoretical perspective. I think this we have seen previously. Previously, we have seen this. What was that is we saw that the gRPC web, that means the browser apps were unable to talk to gRPC service previously, and in 2020 this got introduced where the gRPC web can now talk, but was having an intermediary there. Here, if you go and check this URL, you can see they give a nice block diagram, and they explain that how is that intermediary coming into the picture. Like even the browser, you have exposed a gRPC service, but browser can talk to you. Previously, browser cannot talk to you, but now it can talk, but through a proxy. And that also has been nuked, and now they have exposed this capability to directly talk, and that's what we are seeing now. We from the Blazor WASM, without any intermediates, we are able to talk to gRPC using the gRPC web capability. Okay, and then we'll go back here and see that there are two methods of talking to gRPC web. So the one mode is with the .NET Blazor WebAssembly, and the other mode is JavaScript sparse. So we didn't see this piece. So our focus for today will be that. So how can we do this JavaScript uh, SPA? Okay, so that's what we will focus today. And before getting into that, there are a lot of articles. Okay, this is the previous version where we have to do like this. We have a service, and we have the backend server, maybe written in any language of your choice. And again, when you want to talk through the SPA, you have to create, and additionally, you have to have this YAML file to talk. Okay, but now things have changed, so we don't need this. We can directly talk. So another point, lot of bits and pieces, which moving pieces are there. Let's touch upon all. So there are a lot of articles in web which explains clearly what all the steps we need to do to achieve this. And I mean, multiple articles are there. I mean, we can follow any article. Okay. So this is the one proto. Um, there are again multiple ways to achieve this. Some of the people, what they do is they do an npm install, proto c, or see this proto c, instead of going and grabbing this release individually. We can take this into our package and install it, so that gets installed as part of the NuGet. I will show that example in a moment. If you come and see that, uh, I think this is the one. Yep, this is the one. If you come and see that, okay, Protos. Yep, see this. So it's all multiple ways. It's all the personal choice. How do you want to do? Um, whether you want to use this Proto-C as part of the NuGet package, you can npm package, you can do npm install, or you can download that executable which I have downloaded, and I've dropped it here in this Proto-C. While working, what happened is I faced one problem when I was using the the Proto-C executable from the npm install. So that's the reason I have to come back to this one. Um, it works. I mean, it's a personal choice whether you can use that or this. So whatever works good, we can follow that. And that being said, is there any other point which we need to discuss? Yeah. So this here, God. Okay, so this is the Proto-C. So we can come and grab this for whatever the one. I grabbed it, this one, Proto-C 3.13 Win64 package. So that's what I have downloaded. And yep, that's it. So let's start. We don't have any uh, Angular one at this point of time with us. So let's go and get one copy of this Angular. I have it in my previous. Right, grab this. I hope this doesn't have the NuGet npm package. It doesn't. It's not there. Okay, I'm grabbing this, and we'll execute and we'll see that what it is doing, and we'll rename also. We'll rename Angular College Web and API. Okay, so this is the one. Let me open that in a separate Visual Studio. Okay, so let's quickly see. Um, we'll have a quick walkthrough because this is a. If we start discussing it itself will take a lot of time. Everything will get checked into the repository. You guys can go grab this and play with that. So you have this app components and app route modules where there are a lot of components has been created. So let's see that. Let me install execute npm install. So while this is installing, we can talk about the moving pieces. What does this have? This is the main app component which loads the router outlet. So we have the routing module. So what all the routes we have? We go to the dashboard. We go to the professors. We go to add professors, edit professors, remove professors, and a page not found. Um, the full version of this is available in the Git repository. You can give that a shot. You can give that a shot here, which is in this folder. I'll check in into this Xmonkeys in this session 11. It gets created into this one. So you can remember that it is in Vishupilor. I'll also post it, give it to Anwar, so he will post it there. So it will be in this folder, all this working version. So you can focus on this work. So it's installing. So apart from that, what do we have? We have an interface folder where we are having two interfaces, Professors DTO and Professors add DTO. So those two interfaces are there, and we have one service file and this service file is talking to 5002. The 5002 is we are talking to this one, web API, and and it has got the CRUD operations like add professor, get all professors, get professor by ID, edit professor, and remove professor. Okay, so that's the CRUD operations. We have it there. And from the component perspective, if you see that you have we have created different components, so that once you go to the next level where you have different modules, in that case what we can do is we can move these folders into the module folder, and you can load those module specific here. If you see this app module TS. Suppose if you have a professor is one, student is one, library is one. If you have three different modules in this college application, so at a high level, you can create components and then professor, student, and library. So these three modules, and move the folders which belongs to that particular module, and load these components in that module. Let's assume if it is a professor's module, instead of me loading everything in this app module, I can load those things in the professor's module, as well as have the routing specific to that there. Okay, so that we can do. And we have the dashboard. We'll see what the dashboard is in a moment. And add professor, because this was specifically done for another demo where it is a pure integration from REST endpoint to Angular UI. It's a full stack between .NET Core and Angular UI. So our focus is a little bit towards the gRPC web, but to understand the fundamentals, we are doing this exercise. Okay, so that is done. So let's quickly go and start this project, and we'll see that it compiles and it gets executed in a moment. Let's wait on that guy. Until that guy is going, let me do another copy of this so that we can start using it for the uh, gRPC web, so that now we can see the difference. This one we are using it for college with API integration, and this we will use it for the gRPC web. Okay, this I just made a two copies so that you can see the differentiation, how it differs when you talk to REST and how it differs when you want to talk to gRPC web. For that, I just created a separate folder. Okay, now that everything is done, all is well. So this is a professor's dashboard. That's a dashboard component, and if you see that, this is the top nav bar. Let me So this is the top nav bar component. So the top nav bar component is this guy over here. So this is the top nav bar component. See the professors and the college, and this is the side nav bar. Everything is a separate component, and this is a footer, uh, separate component. Okay, and page not found. Suppose if I want to go to dashboard one, it goes and routes it to page not found, and again from here I can come back to this one. So that's a separate page. Instead of displaying technical details, it is better to say that the page not found and route that guy back to the home page. And now the key thing what we will focus is, as of today, we'll focus only on the professors list, the list component. Okay, what is happening inside the list component is, inside the list component, we see that the service file, whatever we created here, the service file is getting dependency injected into this constructor, and on init we are calling load all professors, and load all professors is calling the get professors, and we are subscribing to this RxJX. So if I come in here, what is happening here in this get professors, we are calling that HTTP client. If you see that here, we are injecting that HTTP client, and we have the URL. Is it exposing API v1 or what? Did we test this? Let me check that real quick. Is it how is it going? Is it with v1 or v2 or without that? Okay, there is no v1. So I think I have to change at one of the two places. I'll change it there, so that I don't need to change the routes. V1. Okay, so I changed it, and again I'll come back and uh, re-execute this one. And now, okay, that's it is executing. Now let me come back to this and go to this .NET Core. Let me close this. That's the .NET Core, and I'm coming in here, .NET Core with SQL and get professors. If you see this, I'm using that environment variables, which will be environment specific. The web API URL, it's pointing to localhost 5002. Just in case tomorrow, if I change it to 5003 or something, I don't need to go to every one of these calls and start modifying it. Instead, I need to come here and modify. So it's better to use this Postman collection. Okay. That being said, let's go and call this method. So it is giving us this 9 records, whatever we have created. Now one record we have created, and whatever the previously existing records it's showing. And now what we will do is we will start seeing this UI, and let's go and get the records. You can see that the records are there. So I just wanted to show you that there are no exceptions anywhere in the console or anywhere in the network tab. So all this data is coming from the network tab. If you see that professors, it is we have hit that 5002 API, which is exactly similar to this one. Localhost 5002/API/v1/professors. You can see that. So this has been coming from the variable inside the Postman API v1 professors. So that is getting displayed here. Okay, that is getting and displayed here. So we saw that how to do the integration is we will change that services class, where the services class will go talk to the backend. Now that will come and hit here. Okay, just to understand this little bit. So what we will do is, for the time being, I'll stop everything, and I'll stop everything and select this as a startup project, and place the debugger in the professors controller get all method. Okay, and I execute this. So now after this we'll do the gRPC web one. There'll be some problems we'll face, but we will overcome those. What is that? Why is that having a problem now? Okay, this gRPC is okay. So nothing is executing. Nothing is executing. Okay, a couple of things are executing. Okay, gRPC server is free, and REST API both are free. Okay, nothing is executing. I think now it will compile. I will start this, and let's wait. Give it a minute. Okay, so we have this executing. So now let's go and do a refresh, and I will increase this DevTools. And okay, cool. Right now I do right. Okay, so now see this. The moment we hit that, so see this. It made the call. It is in pending status, and it reached the um, REST API. So that means the integration is happening from the UI to backend. So this also we have seen. That's good. So that's integration how you do from Angular 10 UI to the Angular UI to REST API. Okay, now let's focus on gRPC web. So that's our key focus for today. So what I will do is I will use this guy to do our experiment on that. So here is the gRPC web, and it is the same copy. It is the same copy what we did for the gRPC Angular versus REST .NET Core REST. It's the same piece, copy of that. It's nothing new. So I'm coming and grabbing it, and you can see that it's the same copy. Just to prove the theory that it's the same copy, what I will do is I will stop this here, and I will close this also and execute this, because now that we saw that how the integration is happening, we don't need to focus on that. Now I can start it from here. I don't need to switch on the debugger and do that. Let's save some time. Okay, so npmi, because we don't have the NuGets, I have to install that. So let's give it a minute, guys. I should have done when I'm working on the other example. In the meanwhile, we can quickly come and see that here. It's the same 5002/ep/v1. It's doing that because I just want to keep the previous example untouched, so that if anyone wants to compare what is changing between between A and B, that means you guys can analyze how do we uh, integrate with .NET Core REST Web API with an Angular app. That's this sample. So we are not mixing the gRPC web into this folder. I'm just keeping it separate so that you can see the diff. Okay, so let's give it a minute. So here's the one. So the same port. You can come back here and just click on this, and let's go and get the data. So let me do another refresh. So it's going and hitting. So no console errors, and we are getting the content. So technically both the versions we are using the same thing. I mean, just to avoid confusion, what I will do is I will close this one window so that I have less number of moving pieces to deal with. Okay, cool. So now comes the real big pieces, moving pieces are coming in now. So the first thing what we will do is we will follow. There are a lot of articles I followed. I mean I read 4 5 articles before developing this sample. So one, I mean, I picked up from multiple places. One of the thing is I liked this very much, so I am showing this one. Okay, first what we will do is we will install a few of the things. We will install this Google Podbuff, and then we will types of Google Podbuff, and then importable gRPC web. We'll spend one quick minute on this one. We'll come in here and search for this guy. We'll search for this guy over here. So this one. What is this? That we'll spend 1 minute time. So what is this importable -eng slash gRPC web? So this library is intended for both JavaScript and TypeScript usage from a web browser or Node.js. So when we are using these technologies, we can go grab this one. Okay. Go language gRPC web middleware and Golang based gRPC web proxy are available. That's a different thing. But as of now, our focus is talking from Angular to gRPC web. So we need to grab this NuGet package. Okay. And after doing that, what we will do is we will generate the we will generate this we will generate this the client and the client proxies or whatever we need it as part of the client. That means technically what are we generating there is, I just want to compare what we are doing there. If you see that here, you will see we are having that college gRPC, college API gRPC. That is that it creates the service. Why am I going there? Okay, that's it creates a client. Yeah, gRPC service client it creates, and then what it does is it creates the uh, all those messages in the sense the classes DTOs or data transfer objects or the classes which goes left right. So that's the thing. Okay, when uh, we'll compare that with the already finished version. So let me close all these things. So quickly we'll compare that and then we'll start building our own. So let me expand this and go to this proto folder and we see this one. So you see that gRPC service. If you scroll down a little bit, you will find the gRPC service client. You will find the gRPC client for the JavaScript, and it has got this typings here. And we'll see this. Come back to this one. So the college service client, and that's why you're seeing the same thing is being created here in this C#. Okay, the tool is creating. Here we have to execute one command. That's the only difference. Here the tooling is taking care of that, creating whether the service components or the client components in C#. But here in Angular, we have to create. It's one simple command. We have to execute it. And coming back to the data structures or the classes, here it generates another file without the suffix of gRPC that we have seen multiple times, that it is the uh, objects which go to and fro. Now, if you come and check the other file without the service prefix, again you can see that the naming convention is pretty much similar. You can see that here it says that college API gRPC, and without gRPC is that messages or the input output. Here also, if you see that college API Podbuff underscore service, that's pretty much either you're creating the service or client, and without that service prefix, it's again coming and talking about the messages. So the same messages which we have created, see this, the get professor request, and you can see that new professor request. It should be there here in this file. Let me go. Let me go there and see that it's there here. So the same thing. We will create this one. I just wanted to stop here and just compare what client components gets created in C Sharp and what kind client components gets created when we want to integrate with this JavaScript versus TypeScript. Okay. That being said, let's spend one more minute time to understand what is this port C, uh, because we never focused on this when we did this C sharp one, because all we add this proto file and we build it automatically. We see this, it's getting created, and multiple times we have seen that all we need to tell the tooling that okay, take this proto from this location and create the client components. Now the tooling is taking care of everything on our behalf. We never need to sweat. Now coming back to this, we have to sweat. So that's good thing. We are learning a little bit more. Let's come back here and go to this proto C. Uh, let's go in here. I just want to spend 1 minute time on this guy. I just want to check the README. Okay. Now, why did we navigate from there? 1 second, guys. Sorry. I was searching for Proto C. What's it? Okay, this guy. Okay, it's not an. I need the documentation of that. This all proto buffers. No, we don't need this. Let's search it here. Okay, it's not here. So let's see. Did we get this here? Proto C? Yeah, we saw that. Okay. Proto C. Let's go in here and you can see this. You didn't give the documentation. Okay, I just was looking at that documentation compiled from proto buffer. Again, we are coming back to this guy. Okay, never mind. So we'll look into this syntax here itself. We don't need to go into the older version. Are they giving any documentation? No, then they're not giving. Okay. So anyways, let's come back here to understand what we are doing this one. So apart from that, when we install, okay, let's start installing. So that will save our time. So first I'm taking this Google port buff. So I'm coming into session 11 and I'm installing. You can see that our NuGet packages will get updated here. Okay, this is our existing, sorry, it's a package JSON, because mostly I work in C Sharp. So always whenever it's packages, I'm saying NuGet packages, it's npm at this point of time. So you can see this line number 24, it added that Google port buff. And then next thing is I'm following this and I'm installing the types for that port buff. Okay, that's done. And let's do this importable. And we have seen that why is importable needed when we want to use this gRPC web for JavaScript or TypeScript. We use that. Okay, let everything get installed. We will probe something else and then we'll execute the main command. and that is this. Let's go and see something known as the pro, protocgen, this command. Okay, so that's this guy. Let's spend one quick minute. So, this repository contains the proto-C plugin. Okay, that generates the TypeScript declarations, the typings .d.ts, and that matches the JavaScript output. So here we execute this command where it goes and creates. This is the one I was looking out since long. Okay, thank God it's here. So if you see this, the proto-C, we execute this plugin here, and we will tell that, okay, give me the JS output and give me the TS output. So that gives the combination of those JS and dot D dot TS. So you can dig you can dig deeper into this documentation. That's the reason I was just looking out for this documentation. So please make a note of this. It's we need to navigate to ts.protc.gen, where I mean the simple syntax what we use is this one: the plugin, the JS output, the TS output. Okay, and the protos on which we need to on which we need to work. Okay, so multiple ways to do it. I mean, we can have these variables created and then execute it in a folder where the proto-C exists. We can do that, or we can add it as part of the scripts. Okay, so let's see that the next piece. Anyways, please remember that URL so that you can grab more information. So one of the tip what he's giving is here we have to give the absolute path. So sometimes if the dot notation, if we give, it was not working for some reason. So I have to give the absolute path. So let's see that what is that absolute path is. So first let me copy this guy. Okay, and let me create a notepad and let's build it here with the, let's see how did we build it using the uh, in the package JSON. We will have a lot of scripts, isn't it? Execution scripts. So similarly, like ng start, ng build, ng test. Similarly, we can do this way. This is one of the way. Okay, so let me come back and grab this guy. So what we are doing is we are giving that plugin. So that's the path of my full path of this. We need to go and grab that. So this is the full path. Okay, all the way till there. I have to do that all the way till here. Okay, so let me grab this and convert into that format. Wow, the command becomes a little longer, but should be fine. Okay, so we will go and modify this command. I'll add it over this, and now let's ensure that whatever the path which we are giving, that really exists. So that means the path whatever I've given, that really exists. Okay, so that is one piece, and the next piece is I just copy it for a couple of times and keep it from safety. I don't need to do again and again. Okay, I just pasted it. And the next thing is the JS output. Where do I want my JS output to be placed? So that should be this entire location. That's the JS output where I want all the JavaScript outputs, and TS outputs. Again, I want it in the same location. And where is my proto file? Proto file should be there in src app proto and this one. So let's create that folder inside this app. Right mouse click and create a new folder and call it as proto. And let me go steal that real quick, that proto file. We come in here. Right. I this gRPC src app proto. Perfect. So I just copied that. So we did added those npm packages, and we have placed it here. Now let's build the command which has to be executed. Okay. So the first command is this one. So we have seen that what is those tools are. So okay, that's the first piece. And where do I want my JS output to be? I want my JS output to be in this location. Okay. And where do I want my TypeScript artifacts? I want my TypeScript artifacts to be in this location. And the last piece is, where is my proto? My proto is here. The proto is here. Okay. So let me remove the word wrap so that we can see the things in one big piece. So it's here. So let me go and grab this. Okay. So I will go grab this guy. Okay. So I wanted to ensure that there are no space or extra characters, and again it will trouble and we'll waste hours together investigating that. Okay. So this is the command. So what we can do is come back here and go to the package JSON, and under the scripts block you can, I mean, the naming convention, whatever, compile grpc or whatever you want to take, you want to use it, you're free to use it. Okay, so I just place it here, right? So, and one thing, you can ensure that you have all those installables on a proper location. I just type this proto C, it's coming in. So that means I have my proto C installed, and you can see that once you type it, it's giving in lots and lot of things, all the things, whatever it has to do, that it is clearly telling that what you want to generate. Do you want to generate the C# files, or a Java files, or a JavaScript files, and everything. So we have seen that. So let me do a clean and come back here and see this. Focus on this folder. Now when I'm executing this, npm run compile. I'm crossing my fingers that it should. Ooh. Okay. What is that? TS out. Cannot find the specified file specified. What did I specify? Yep. What is that? Hold on. Let's see that. Let's see what is the difference between that and this. It's nothing. Uh, so So what I am doing is, here is a plugin. Let me go and see, did I miss something? Did I miss something? One second. The proto binary. This is one. Let me wrap this real quick and check. Here we are having. Okay, this is the guy. Let me check this, that it exists. I didn't do anything wrong. Okay, it exists. Okay, both exist. It's not a problem. I was thinking that there's some problem in this one. So it doesn't have the problem. Anything? This app proto college API. Okay, let's see that. Why is it unable to do that? We have given the proto C. We have given everything. What is it saying? It's executing and it says that TS output, protogen TS, the system could not find. Oh, that means it's talking about this. Right. So the protos, that gen file is not there because we have to install this NuGet package. Looks like we slipped installing this guy. Not this guy. This NuGet is missing because that will create that. So let me grab that and see that it could not find that protocgen ts dot command. So let's add this NuGet. Appa. It's always I'm using NuGet, but it's npm package. Apologize because I'm majorly from C# background. So cool. Now let's go back and probe that folder. Now you're seeing that the protocgen, it appears now. So that was the mistake. Okay. Now I execute this compile. Cool. Now you can see this when I executed this compile, just for the retake sake, I delete that. Now I have only, you can see this here. I have only the college API. I don't have anything. Now I execute this compile, and when I execute this compile, it comes. So let's do a quick recap. What all the things do we need? So we need this Google port buff and TS port gen and importable. So these are, apart from the things which was mentioned here, we have this importable, this Google port buff, its type importable, and the new thing what we have installed is TS prot cgen. After that, we come back and execute the script. Technically, we are executing the proto C executable, and we are saying that plugin, which plugin to use. So that gives some other information. And when you execute this proto C, what proto C? I don't know. So in this proto C, if you see that by default, okay, here if you scroll down a little bit, you can see this by default. The output is CPP, C#, Java, JS output, Object C, PHP, Python, Ruby, and additionally we wanted for the TypeScript, and that's what we have seen here. This repository contains the proto-C plugin that generates the TypeScript declarations .d.ts. So that's when we can start consuming this in our Angular app. So that is an additional thing which in our command, whatever the command which we are giving. Let me minimize this. So So if I minimize this and place it here, you can focus on that piece where we are saying that JS underscore out. So we're saying that all this, it is coming out of the Proto-C, but the TS underscore out, that it is coming from this Protogen, where we're telling that generate the components which are needed for the TypeScript too. Okay, now we have built our foundation. Now we can go fast. No, we'll go in the same pace. Will not go any faster than what it is needed. So another thing what we can do is, I mean, again, it's a personal choice. It's nothing mandatory that you should definitely follow this way, but whatever best works for you, you can follow that. Is that we can go to that environment file and update this environment so that, you know, if you want to have like a enterprise application, you are talking to the API as well as you want to talk to the you want to talk to this gRPC web. So in that case, this will definitely help having those here. So I just added it here. And the next change, where do we need? The next change we need it in this little bit of interfaces has to be modified, because why is that? Let's I mean, this we have seen in our previous session, but I'll give a quick update on that. If you see that the date time for this here, the Google gRPC has got, the Google Portbuff has got timestamp, which is not date time. So again, for timestamp dot from date time we need to use this. We have seen, and also we have seen when you receive a timestamp, we say that to date time, we convert to and fro. And for that reason, if you see whatever we are sending it from here is purely is purely the date time timestamp. It's not the date time whatever is there in C# or JavaScript. It's a timestamp. Okay, that we have to carefully focus on that. And so that's one point. And second point is we go and modify these modify this add this interface whatever is I mean output whatever is coming in. So I will add this to the existing one here, and we'll see that how is this impacting us, right? So I'll come in here and add this timestamp. So it's not a date time, it's a timestamp. Okay, that's one change we need to do it. So that means here, if you see in our previous program where we are sending in from this is a collection of professors. That means if we go to that here, you're getting this list of professors object, and that comes into this controller here, and where we are getting all the professors. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I'm seeing. Why it is not doing this transformation. If you see this here, we are getting all the professors, get all professors. And then what we are doing is we are converting each of this. It's a technical debt. Actually, I should use the automapper, but I just used this one. So we are passing this professors object. If you see the professor object, the date time is is this date time of, if you see this is the C# date time, and from C# date time we are converting that into timestamp, because because this has to be defined from the contract. In this proto we will say that what will be the output, whether it is a date timestamp or string. If you don't like, you can make it as a string, like if you see this professor ID is a string. So just to avoid confusion, I will make this also as a string instead of using the GUID. I will use this one again. If something doesn't work, we have to waste a lot of time. So now the structure is exactly matching. If you see that professor ID, it's matching with the professor ID, and then and you have the name. Both are string. The next is date of join is timestamp. Teaches is string. Salary is number, and PhD is boolean. So for some reason, when it is coming out, it's removing all this camel case and making it everything lowercase. So that's the reason I'm modifying this structure now. Okay, that is one point. So we will debug that how it is happening and other things. We will debug one by one. Okay. So for the time being, let's go. And after this, the next point what we have to do is we have to go and update the service, and the service file has to be updated. Let's go and grab this service file, and inside the service file, the base URL is it remains same. There's no change, and additionally we will add these two guys. The environment should already be there. Okay, it's not there. Okay, environment and empty, because we're not passing anything. If you see the new request, we are not passing. We are passing get all request. Okay, this is the one. So for get all request, if you come into this, get all professors, it is an empty. So we have to pass an empty here. So that's the reason we need this empty, and everything else remains same. And just not to disturb the existing code, so that we can understand how do we get the content from the REST, and how do we get the content from the gRPC web. So that's the reason I just kept it line 41 till 62 is the how did we get it from the gRPC, and line 64 till 69 it's our existing HTTP client. I didn't touch that, so I just kept it as it is. And after that we need to get this client also. It's similar to the imports in C#. Similar to imports in C#, this is the one which we do it. Just get this environment above, so that we know the clear-cut differentiation. And the next thing what we will do here is we will go grab these two lines and drop it. We'll discuss what we are doing it. So I grab this. So what's first one is we'll creating a variable of call as service type, so that you can compare with this C# code where you are creating this gRPC client. Okay, it's exactly the same. You can see this. Pretty similar. I'm not sorry. Let me take my word back. It's not same. It's pretty similar. The concepts are pretty similar. And now next thing what we need to do is we need to grab this get all professors. I go grab this guy. Okay. I go grab this guy and drop it here. Okay, now let's discuss what we're doing. Okay, get all professors, NuGet package, go get it from there. Okay, that's also there. Why did I miss it here? Oh, it's here. I'm sorry. It's here. It's my mistake. I didn't take it. Okay, so technically what we are doing is we are saying that get all professors from gRPC, just so that we can know the differentiation between get all professors. This is a REST call and this is a gRPC web call. We are returning promise of object, and what we are telling is this is a key piece. Whatever the one which is happening in line 45 is a key piece. What we're telling is gRPC client dot get all professors, and we have to pass empty. We have seen there. and we can pass metadata, and we pass metadata from if I am not wrong, we have passed it from the Blazor WASM, I assume. I assume we passed that metadata somewhere. I remember we passed that metadata. Oh, in logging and errors, there we pass the metadata. In that session, we passed it. So here we don't pass any metadata, so we do null, and then we are having this callback where it returns error or response. So if it is an error, we are saying that error while invoking gRPC, and we are rejecting that error. Else, if we are getting the response, we are telling that the response is all professors response type. So what is this all professors response type? So what is this all professors response type is? It has got a count, it has got a message, and it has got a enumeration of professors. So enumeration of professors is what? Get professor response. So what is that get professor response? Is this guy. So it will have three major pieces there. One piece is this count, one piece is this message, one piece is the list of professors response. So that you can correlate with the interface which we have created short few minutes ago. So you can see that that is count, and the other one is message, and other one is professors list. So how did I know that what is professors list? When I started integrating, I put a debugger, and that's when I found that it is giving this way. Okay, right? So that's good. So we did it. I think we are all set. And at one place we need to modify is we need to go to the component. We need to come to this component, and the professors list, we need to come into this guy, and we need to do a small modification here, because we don't need to call the rest one, we need to call the grpc one. So let's come in here real quick and go grab this guy. And so this is the one update we need to do it. Let me come in here, and what all uh, okay. Oh, that's one quick change. And another quick change is this: we need to call this method, and we comment the existing method. So in the load professors, let me comment this. Okay, let me comment the rest call. I'm just placing those things there itself so that you guys can revisit to find out what's happening. Okay, so we are calling this get all professors from grpc, and we are expecting the results to come professors from grpc. Okay, that professors from grpc is defined here. Okay, so just to I mean, apologies for my naming convention, it should be like a professors list or something. Why don't I change professors from here? We know that we it's creating complexity now. Okay, for the time being, I'll keep it here, because again, if it is not working, then again I need to go and change it multiple places. We'll change it once integration is done. So we are calling this method. So again, that goes to the service here. And in the service file, what we are calling is, we are calling the grpc client. What is this grpc client? Is the one which we created in under this protos file. These are generated files, so which is defined in this one. Okay, and that goes and talks to the grpc server. It gets the content. Okay, now let's start getting beaten black and blue to find out. Right. Let's start. .NET run. Okay, the server is running. And let's do npm start. Okay, it's come. Click on this. Let's open this and just click on this. Okay, so if you see this results and you have count of 9, you have message and this professors list. In fact, when we declared it here, we declared the property as professors, but some gRPC framework or some tooling is adding that professors list to that. It is adding this professors list. That's one point to note. And the second point to note is, I think I should have it here. Okay, the second point to note here is inside that professors list, we are having an array. And if you expand that array, you can focus it on this one. The professor ID, I was capital in C#. If you see that, the professor ID, the I was capital. Now here what is happening is the I is lowercase. And similarly, if you see that E is PhD, in E is PhD, we have given P as capital. But now here, when it comes to this, it converted into lowercase. So that's how I found placing a debugger, and wow, we broke somewhere. Unable to convert object to date. Okay, that's because we we need to see that also. Okay, let's debug that. Let's stay there. Let's come in here. So another point to note here is inside the watch window, the date of birth is not the date time. It's the Google Podbuff timestamp. So if you see that Google Podbuff timestamp, so that's this object. Okay, so this object is having the date timestamp. Okay, this is the guy. So this timestamp is a structure which is made up of seconds and nanos. So if you want to convert that to date time, we have to do this conversion. But in C# it was pretty easy. We just executed two times to date, and from date time we have those methods. It was pretty easy. But here it is JavaScript. We have to write little bit of code. So for the time being, what I will do is I will come to that markup file, and I don't want to do this. So instead, I want to display the seconds. Actually, that's not the correct thing. I should write it everything. What's that? Okay. So here it is coming in. So next thing what we see is this professor ID. It's not displaying. PhD it is not displaying. Okay, good. So let's face these problems. Then only we'll come to know that why it's not displaying. Because here, if you see this, in the debugger, we have seen that the professor ID, it is lowercase. Okay. And the PhD also, we have seen that is it converted into lowercase. Date of joining dot. What is that? Is this date of joining or something else? Yeah, date of joining dot seconds. You can have nanos in seconds. So let me do a refresh and a refresh again so that it picks up the right thing. Okay, so now it is showing this, it is showing this, it is showing this also. So we don't have any errors in console, and this is how it gets the data. So actually, I should have written the code. I didn't get time to write, so I didn't write it. But we have seen that how the things are working. So this is the professors list. If I come back here, this is also running, isn't it? Okay. I can very well come back here and do a refresh. This works. Now this is to see that. Oh, okay. Because I'm executing both on the same port. What we can do is come back to Angular line 60s or 70s. I make this as 5004 so that we can see both guys executing. No, not this. It's not this. Close folder. And this one. And let's go to Angular JSON and line 65 about. Yeah, let's make it 5004. And where is the side nav bar? Side nav bar. Yeah, that's the one. Side nav bar. Where's that coming from? Okay. So that's a page title. Okay. Sidebar, just to see the difference. I don't know how ugly it looks, but I'm using this color. So apologize for my color choices. That's the best I could choose. I'm sorry for that. It might look pretty ugly. You can close eyes for a couple minutes. Uh, we are closing. So one is in 5004. So let's change this into 5004. Okay, this is the one. Okay, this will keep it here, and the previous one will change it to 5004, so that at least we can know the difference. One is getting executed from REST API, and you can see in the network tab. So this is going and calling the REST API. It's on 5002, and the one which is in in 5003 port, you can see that in the network tab, it goes and talks to the 5001, which is the gRPC port. So let's do a quick recap. What all the things which we did today. So we have one set of reusable components and the layered architecture. So we saw the advantage of layered architecture when we created REST API and the gRPC service. Because if you see that all the concerns which are common, we moved to a reusable library. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel again and again. So the advantage is, even though if you see that this one solution gets deployed in some cloud or some data center, and this will get deployed in some cloud and some data center. Technically, if you see it, these two are two different and individual pieces. They are not one. But they have been made with the same reusable component. Now that's an advantage. So the maintenance is one. If I have the literal copy here and again the copy here, because I say that, okay, this is our team we are dealing with. I don't want anyone to use this. Now, if there is a change, two teams need to go and modify. Here in this case, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, you can consider it as a positive or you can consider it as a negative. Okay. I mean, arguably, if I sit on the other side of the table, I say that if just Web API needs to have some change, which is not needed to gRPC, I can start an argument like that, but it doesn't make sense. So let's see the positive side. We have successfully created two different things. One is a REST API and gRPC, and we saw the advantage of uh, reusable component. And then next, what did we do is we went and executed the executed this gRPC client, which goes and communicates with gRPC, but not on the web channel. It's on a direct channel. That's also we have seen on the console. And after that, what did we do is we went and executed this Blazor app, which will go and hit the gRPC server on the web channel. We saw that difference. We saw that as gRPC and gRPC web. We saw the two different channels. Then what did we do? We came back to Angular world and we started integrating with the REST. So we saw what all the moving pieces we need to do the integration. The backend is in .NET and the UI is in Angular 10. So we saw that integration. It was successful. Then the next thing is we created another copy of that Angular app and we started modifying. What did we do? We came here to that package JSON and we have added those 4 packages. One package was importable and another package was Google Port Buff and the types and TS Proto CGen. And also we downloaded the Proto C and added it as part of our path location. Okay, we did that. And after doing that, we modified the interfaces because the items or the information whichever is coming is little bit different. So we modified the date timestamp. Okay, and we have added one script to the package JSON to compile. We can manually do it, physically do it in some other location and drop this these files in this location. It's your personal choice whether you want to execute it as part of the script or you want to execute it outside and just copy these files. It's your personal choice. And we were able to successfully create the client components. And then we have updated or modified the services file to talk to this gRPC client. And then we have went to the professors list and then modified the modified this TS file where we go and talk to that get all professors from gRPC service. Okay, so that's all. I mean, if you see that we have covered all the flavors, but this is the one very interesting piece which I wanted to cover, which I couldn't get the time because we are already 1 hour 55 minutes, around 1 hour 40 minutes plus or whatever the time. But I'll see if I wanted to cover this piece also because the scenario is what if someone has exposed the gRPC, but they are saying that I'm not going to expose gRPC web. Strictly they're saying that no, I'm not going to expose gRPC web, I'll expose only gRPC. Now you want to integrate in your Angular 10 UI, integrate it. So at that time what will happen is we have to write one more layer because see this, if you have this gRPC service, we have gRPC service, that we will write another layer, that REST API client, and that will talk to Angular 10. So technically Angular 10 will talk to the REST API and the REST API is a client of gRPC service. So I want to cover this scenario, which is, I don't know how many people will approve this approach. They might yell at me, but that's pretty much feasible. So I'll try to cover that in my next session. Thank you so much guys for signing in on Saturday.